All right, everyone, welcome along. Week 5 extras. So, get to do all the big bits, all the fun bits, get to do the build. What we're going to do today in the extras is we're actually going to look at what it takes to really establish and build an environment from scratch. So we're going to put in our deployment pipeline. We're going to start it from there, and we are going to carry on, build the Datamart by pulling the data in, and we're going to set up some rules and get it all ready to go so that you're ready and you've got something that you can then start to build against. Okay, excellent. Let's crack on, champion. All right, everyone, here we are, Power BI service. In terms of setting up and managing our development pipelines, there's a few things you have to do. Step one is going to be to create the workspaces. So you create your dev, your test, and your production workspaces first, remembering they have to be in your premium environment. So you have to either make sure they're in premium per user or in your premium capacity. Okay. So in my case, in consultancy's case, most consultancies, we're doing it in premium per user. It's up to you though if you've got premium capacity. Remember, all of the 3 environments have to be in it. There's no option for it not to be. So what we can do now is we're going to go pick deployment pipelines. Right? We're going to choose to create a pipeline. I'm going to give it a name. This is going to be NYC Water Tower Reporting. Okay, 2023 and beyond NYC Water Tower Inspection Report data sets. Okay, because we're going to remember just data sets that we're looking at really bringing in here. So we're going to create it. And it's now going to say to me, what workspaces relate to it, mate? Okay, and I'll pick them. So for me dev, right, I've got this New York Water dev. For test, we've got New York Water test. And for production, we've got New York Water production. Okay, so we've now got these environments assigned to it. So pick assign, right? It's going to come through and they're all blank. Okay, so everything's blank. We know they're blank. Okay, so we've now built our deployment pipeline. So here we are, right? First thing we need to do, isn't it, is we're going to create a new, and this is going to be a Datamart. We want a Datamart for this. Okay. Now, I've already got data flows that are pulling through the data that we need. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to those data flows. I think that feels like the simplest thing to do. And this would be the example that you would have in terms of in your business of, I need to connect to my production databases and pull the data in. Anyway, you can do it for dev and test or in production, right? And we talked about as well that you could potentially do some limiting or filtering of that content just to make sure everything is fine and works perfectly for you. So we'll do the basics of setting this up, and then I'll take you through really what we can do to make those things better. Yeah? Champion. So what we'll do is we'll start by getting data. So we've clicked on get data. And we can see we've got plenty of options to get our data from. Where we're going to go today is we're going to go and choose from the Power Platform, and we're going to choose data flows. So you will note now that data flows, you've got the Power BI data flows are now considered legacy. That's because there are wider scale data flows that will also come from Power Apps and the likes. So use those now in terms of if you're building against data flows now. But if you've used the legacy, it should be fine. But be prepared that at some point you might have to swap them over. So pick that. It's an organizational account. I'm just going to sign in. I'm signed in. And I'm going to click next. Now it'll say, well, where exactly is your data flow? Right? And again, you've got workspaces now and you've got environments. So environments are from the Power App side. Workspaces are from the other side that we're in. And where we're looking for is our data flow workspace, New York City water towers. We've got this New York City water inspections. We've got buildings. We've got inspections. Okay, so we've got two tables that we're going to pull from there. Okay, the other thing that we're going to bring through, okay, and this is something that, again, I've always advocated, is getting to this idea of having a data core. Okay, so we've got this data flow data core. We're going to bring in our calendar. If you need to know how to build a calendar, go back, have a look. Right, this is our corporate calendar that I've built. It covers everything from 1900 to 2100. This is something to think about at this stage. So we've picked our three tables that we're going to need. It's more focused on England for that. So there, we're going to transform the data. And you're into the web interface of really that you will be used to from a data flow side. All right, so we've got our tables through, right? We've got the three tables that we need: the buildings, the inspections, and the calendar, right? What we're going to do, though, is we're going to make some changes to them. Now, one thing that you need to be aware of, if you are using data flows as your source, they don't like you making changes to the data flow. So you need to do the trick that isn't a trick and shouldn't work and is stupid, but is what's needed for this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to untick enable load, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to reference this. Okay, I'm going to give this name base buildings, and this is going to be buildings. Okay, so we've got the building information there. Right, what we need to do is we just need to remove the empties from bin. Right, there's one empty building in bin. It's where there's a problem with it. We hit load more. We'll see. Have a look. Null. We can see got one null. It's not a complete record. There's something in there, but it's outside our control. So these are things that you'd go, oh, we need to do something about it, don't we? So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change that to it's not null. Okay. We need to do something similar in the inspections. Okay. So inspections, call this base, right click, enable load, right click, duplicate. So the reference even. This is going to be our inspections. Okay. And the next one, inspections. And what we need to do here is we've just got a column that we need to get rid of. Okay, so I'm going to scroll across, and right towards the end, we've got a column batch date. Right, this is when they were uploaded. So I've just deleted it. So we've deleted the batch date column from there, just so that we're not storing it. We don't need it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to right click again, and we're going to reference this again, and we're going to keep the batch date. Okay, so this is going to be upload date. So scroll across, got batch date, right click on it, remove the other columns this time, and then we're going to keep or remove duplicates. Right, and we'll find we've got one date. Okay, 27th of January. So pretty recent. And we could tie some automation to this, and we might well do that so that if it gets over a certain period of time, we get a notification, or even there's something clearly displayed on the report that it's not right or that there's an issue. So now we've got our core data tables that we're going to have. So we've got two base tables. So let's move the calendar down here. So what I'll do, actually, I'm going to pick the two base, right click on it, move them to a group, new group. Base, this is tables that are sources that are not loaded into the data set. Okay, so we've got them clearly there. Okay, and using tables like this helps just logically structure what's going on. The last thing I'm going to do, okay, something that you would typically do in the main Power BI desktop side, but we're going to do it here this time. So I'm going to hit enter data twice. Okay, oh, let's put them there. Let's select those two, move to group, to the root. Okay, we've got these tables. Now these tables we're going to use to put our measurements in, yeah, so our DAX statements. So the first one I'm just going to call DAX. Okay, DAX is where it's going to go. And the second one, this is one that I do a lot, and I wish it was more prevalent. when you use thin reports, Power BI allows you to create measures within them. Okay, and there's reasons why you will do that. There's a multitude of reasons, right? Honestly, right? If I went weeks without doing that, I'd get worried. Okay, and the reason is that every report request you get, there's going to be somewhere you go, oh, hang on, we don't have a measure that does that, right? Oh, we don't have a measure that does that, right? And that's right, because if you went and front loaded with as many things as you could think of, I could almost guarantee the first report requirement that came through, be like, oh, didn't think of that, right? So keep it simple. Start really simple with your DAX. So if you start simplistically with like a count rows and a sum for your number columns, right, for most of for your fact tables, you'll find you'll deal with like 9 times out of 10 with the requirements that you're going to have. You might want to throw in there, right, some core information as well. So some month to date, some year to date, some month over month, some year over year calculations as well, maybe. But it, once you've done those, what more are we going to do? Okay, there's lots that you could also throw in, but it's pointless if people haven't made the requirement and they're going to sit there and not be used. By creating them in the secondary, though, it flags to anybody looking at that report that this is a secondary measure and only exists in that report. You can then start to take the view of these are really valuable measures in terms of what's our new, what's the year over year compared to a particular requirements will come through. Some of them will be valuable overall, and you'd want to use your governance to push those down into your deployment pipeline and have them come up through into in the next release, into production in the next release. If it's just a one-off use case, don't bother. Okay, but it makes it really clear and everyone can see what's happening. And having that second folder just makes it clear that's where you can create stuff, or you should create stuff. Okay, this is part of my discipline that I go through. It's what I try and teach to my clients and to everybody. We've got that built, we've got those set up. So we're just going to hit save. Okay, it's going to pull it all through and load it. So here we are. We've got our table, haven't we? Tables, the models are there. Okay. Everything that we could want to use is here. We can go into the models, do our first one. Inspections, and I always use a separate thing. Never start with the all tables, because that's where any new tables you add, they will appear there. So I'm going to pull through inspections, okay, which we can see has got this bin, which joins to buildings. So we'll bring buildings in, join bin to buildings, one to many, confirm that, okay, which is what we would expect. We're then going to bring in the calendar. Confirm. Okay. So we've got the core piece of our data structure built now, haven't we? Okay. That's really what we need. In the secondary, what I'm going to do as well is we will come back to the data. Create new measures here. And why is that creating it in the wrong place? There you go. Okay. So now what we can do is we can right click on that column 1 and hide in report view. Okay, so that's going to make it really clear that secondary is a measures table. Right. We'll do something similar with DAX, but what we're going to do this time, we're going to click new measure, inspections, and that's going to be count rows of inspections. Okay, enter. And if you remember, one of the things I also said was that you might want to be adding additional stuff. So let's hide this column as well. New measure, buildings. So we'll do something similar. Count rows of buildings. Okay. 2 core measures that you will always use, right, for everything around this. How many inspections went on? How many buildings have we got? Okay. These are going to be things that you will come back to time and again. Those are hidden there. Okay. So we've got the structure starting to take shape, already. Okay. We can see we've got our data set 1. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename it. NYTC water tower inspections. Rename that. Okay, and you can see the corresponding data set renames as well. So we've got the structure. We can start to see it pieced together. We can make some sample reports just to test things out, can't we? So we can see on the right hand side behind the heat, right, we've got DAX and we've got secondary. So we're starting to show we've got these DAX tables. So the nomenclature is there. So we could pick a number of buildings, and we can pick a number of inspections. Let's make it a table, right? And then let's pull in from buildings, borough. Okay, and we see like the split of how many inspections and buildings are in each borough straight away. Making sense. Okay, so we're already in this position, aren't we, where our report content can start to grow. We've quickly deployed some simple measures that will allow us to start doing more. Okay, and we can now start to bring those together and promote them through the environment. So we can start to see just what would it take to do something. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to my environment here. I'm not going to save that. Okay, and let's go to our deployment pipeline. So we can choose to compare our environment, and we can see there's a difference. So we've got this Datamart in particular. So we're going to deploy that to test. Okay, this is going to be our initial environment setup. I'm going to deploy that. Okay, just going to think it through, and that'll come in, right? And then we'll also do the same to publish it to production. Remember, at this point, we just have data, don't we? Okay. Remember as well, we don't want report content in here. What I want to do is to get these pushed through. So we've got one in each environment, and then we can go and we can connect a secondary report to our production environment, and we can start to build content against it. So here we go, yeah. We've got our environments all set up, all synchronized. So the last thing we're going to need to do is to create another new workspace. And you go, why so many new workspaces? We'll create a workspace, NYC water tower inspections reports. Okay, and I'm going to upload this lovely little image that we found of New York to set that up as well. Okay, so we've got a nice little background image there for it. Everything's ready to go. See, it's in premium capacity. We've got our workspace created. So let's go to Power BI desktop, and let's just validate that this works. So we can get data. I'm going to choose from a Power BI data set. Pick the top one here, which is our production one. I'm going to click OK. It's going to bring through the data, and we can replicate, pull in inspections. We could pick buildings. We could drop in the boroughs for the inspections. And if we make that a matrix, we can see inspections by borough. Remember, the data sets will be empty for here until we refresh them. Okay, and then we could also choose to bring in the year. Okay, so we'll put year across there, right? That's what we want. So let's refresh the data and make sure that it's all going to come through. So we'll go back to our data set. Okay, we're going to refresh this. See it's empty, So we need to refresh, make sure it's up to date. And then if we go back to our Power BI desktop, once this is done, and this time we hit refresh, we should get some nice report content come through, right? And we have. So we can see we've got 22 we've got no information about. What we can see as well, we've got 17 that have happened this year already. And we can see potentially we've got some in 2000, 2011. You know, I'm going to suggest that we probably want to start our main report going from 2015 onwards. Okay. And we'll choose to disregard these older inspections. Okay. That's my choice. So what do you reckon then? Okay. This build that we've done, okay, it's a pretty common one, right? And this is a start for it. Don't forget, we're not looking at having everything in, right? So we'll drop some more measures in. And then lastly, we're actually going to make sure that we've started it already, haven't we? Where I've connected a Power BI desktop file to it. That would be published to that report workspace that we've built. And then we would start to have, this is where report content is. And internally within there, we might decide to have different audience features for different apps so that people would be able to see, oh, this is what I'm checking today. This is that. Part of that's going to come down to your business. Part of that's going to come down to how you manage those workloads across your analytical resources. And of course, who's doing them? I can go back in my mind to conversations that I had way, way back, right? Show my age now, back in 2007, even 2006, probably, with Microsoft. I think 2007, I don't think I'm that old, maybe 2008, with Microsoft. In that case, it was one of their consultants about SharePoint. And what he was saying at the time was that Microsoft had found with their SharePoint environment, and this was that they were on their third iteration of SharePoint, and the sweet spot that they'd come to was actually having two strands of SharePoint. So you had your line of business structured reports or structured content, and you had your more ad hoc teams or development areas, okay? Interestingly, I still see that structure mirrored across SharePoint, but also as that's expanded across Teams and across Power BI as well, which is why I bring it up. So you need to be thinking governance layer, but then also the ability to be agile and flexible, right? So we'll look, you can see as well, having that environment appear in my list of data sets could be complicated because those three for the deployment pipeline would all have similar names. Now, a big chunk of it is because it's me, I've got access to it all, right? So of course, a filtered list depends on who you are and what you've got access to. So potentially it's less of an issue, but if you've got people like me around, you're going to see things you shouldn't see. So what we can do is we can actually look and say, well, what we want to do in this situation is we're going to use classifications to further push it. So we will go through and we will actually endorse the production version. We won't endorse the others. Those will stay unendorsed. And we can work out that that's going to be a better solution for our business, can't we? That has to be better. So we'll see how a deployment environment handles that as well. That's something I've not actually tried before, but I'm interested to see. Okay. And we'll keep moving that forward and we'll see what else we're going to pull through. But the core structure of our data is there now. So have a great weekend. Stay safe. Take care. Ta-da.